It got hot last week. Actually, it was in the 80s here in Wisconsin, and I spent a lot of time outside. Lots of things were going on in the garden, and I was working a little bit, cleaning things up. It was so good to be outside and to see everything that was coming along. I thought you'd like to see it too. In the spring, everything is very bare, and you can get a better sense of the shape of my garden and see how small the space really is. Everything that's green stands out so much. All of my columbine plants are coming up now, and I found lots of little baby columbines. The chives are looking nice and green. I see some life on my sage, which doesn't always make it through the winters here in Wisconsin. Here's a sweet catmint plant. I have that throughout the yard. These little species tulips are so joyful. I see the first hints of the pasque flower here, and you can see more little baby columbines. My snowdrop leaves make me happy too. I still haven't gotten any flowers from them, and I actually missed out on filming these little irises. They went so fast in the heat, and they were so pretty. They were the first things to bloom. I have more daffodils coming, and I'm so excited to see them. I also see signs of the bleeding hearts coming back, and the lupins survived the winter. I've lost so many lupins over the years, but I'm glad that these survived. There is lots of green on my Juliet bush cherry. I got delicious cherries from it last year, and I'm looking forward to more this year. My columnar apples, these are naughty plants. They don't grow the way they're supposed to, and this year I'm going to experiment with letting them be and seeing what happens. I have not gotten apples from them yet. I did get so many peaches last year, and I'm hoping to get more this year. I see the buds. If you look on these stems, there are the pointy parts of the buds that are the leaves, and then there are separate rounded parts, and those are going to be flowers, and I'm so excited. I have been weeding out my roses. I have so many fewer than I used to have. You can read about that on my blog. But there's still something so satisfying to me about pruning my roses in the spring and seeing all this new growth. New growth is so hopeful and beautiful, and even when it's a weed like this mullein, I love it. My waking garden just brings me so much joy. Hi, I'm Ann Tara. Thanks so much for joining me in my studio today. The sun is shining and our snow is melting. Since I can't really be out in the garden right now, I thought I would share some of the gardening books that I have been enjoying from the library lately. And I hope that you will enjoy them too. The Heirloom Gardener, Traditional Plants and Skills for the Modern World by John Forti is such a sweet little book. And I think I like it just because it's beautiful. Oh, and how sweet is that? Someone who checked it out before me put a little leaf in there. The illustrations are by Mary Azarian and also Patricia Wakida. So she did these beautiful end papers. I always love a book that has pretty end papers. The book is put together alphabetically, so it's a reference of different plants, different things you can make with plants, different techniques like distillation. Mostly I like it because it's really pretty. I like the color palette. It's just a lovely little book. In contrast to a book that I would consider more decorative than useful is this book by McAndrews Cowden, Plant, Grow, Harvest, Repeat. This one is hardcore. It's a beautiful book, but it's also very practical, very detailed, and a little overwhelming actually about figuring out how to have the most productive garden. There are a couple of illustrations, in addition to all the photographs, there are a couple of illustrations, and I was so excited to see that they were by an artist friend of mine, Ashley Blake. So shout out to her for her beautiful illustrations. So these espalier illustrations and then these brassicas, just lovely. But as I was saying, this is a very hardcore book. And it has huge amounts of information. I'm not sure if I'm up to being this organized in terms of seed starting and planting, the succession of one crop to another. But if you are interested in having a very productive garden and growing lots of food, having a healthy garden, taking care of pests naturally, this book would be a wonderful resource. I love beautiful books, obviously, and here is yet another one, Gardening for Everyone by Julia Watkins. I checked this out from the library, and then in the mail, my new issue of In Her Garden came, and the cover is almost exactly the same. But it's also Julia Watkins' work. And there's a lovely article in here. This is a great magazine. As for this book, again, lovely end papers. I love the feel of this book, the matte pages, the matte photography. It's a nice reference in terms of growing things. It's definitely less hardcore, definitely less overwhelming than the other one. There's so many wonderful things in here, and this was one of the books that I came across that talked about making your own fertilizer tea using plant materials in your garden. And this is talking about comfrey. I have a lovely comfrey plant that has been in my garden for a couple years. I started it from seed and it goes crazy, and I'm really excited about using it as a fertilizer this year. So I will definitely let you know how that goes. This is a great reference to get you started with your garden. It also has some fun projects. These stepping stones. One, let's see if I can find it. The photos are really sweet. Oh yeah, here. These clay garden markers. Such a fun idea, and it's using air dry clay, which I think I would like to try. Also talks about specific plants, gives information about growing them. But a really lovely book. This Kitchen Garden Revival. This one is by Nicole, Johnsey, Burke. This talks a lot more about design. So if you are interested in figuring out a good design for your garden, she uses raised beds. She puts in some vertical elements she uses lots of different materials, which I think is interesting. I love all the arches. So practical information about setting up your garden, how to fill your garden boxes, information about soil, watering, different plant families, and what you might want to grow. I like how all of the books that I've checked out all have a different flavor to them. Monty Don's The Complete Gardener. I mentioned this in my newsletter. This one also has a nice matte feel to the pages. Lots of information about his different gardens, how they have come about, the way they've changed through the years. Lots of photos with his dogs in them. And as a gardener who always has her dog in the garden, and actually let me just tilt this up so you can see my snoring friend over there. So you can see how that would be appealing to me. In 2021, I wrote a blog post about my dogs throughout the years who spent time with me in the garden, and I'll link to that below. This one is really big, thicker than the other books. Lots of great information about different plants to plant. This lettuce is so gorgeous. Just looking through books like this makes me so eager to get into the garden. And really the reason that I checked out so many gardening books partly was thinking about my current garden, what changes I want to make, thinking about my future garden, what I'd like it to look like when we eventually move. But also just to get me through these snowy, cold days that I can't be in the garden because, oh, look how pretty that is. Because this is where I want to be. I'm not talking about Monty Don's garden. I just mean outdoors in the garden, surrounded by flowers. That's where I want to be. And if I can't really be out there, it's wonderful to have a book where I can pretend that I'm out there. So this one is a wonderful, big book that has great information, beautiful photographs. A great book. So look what I snuck in here. This one is not a gardening book, but it is botanically inclined. This one is a comprehensive guide, they say, to botanical art techniques. It's edited by Woodin and Jess. Does not have interesting papers, but the art in here, if you like botanical art, if you are a botanical artist, I think you would really love this. Look how fun this painting is of beetles and seeds. Multiple circles. Asuka Hishiki. Beautiful. This book, if the other gardening book was hardcore, this is a hardcore art book. And it's multiple techniques, multiple kinds of media used to create illustrations of plants and flowers and fruits and seeds. One of the things that is really interesting in this book is that it gives you, not for all of the paintings and illustrations, but for a lot of them, it tells you how long it took to complete. So this pencil drawing, pencil and pan pastel, took 24 hours to complete. This one they don't say. This one, it says that it took 9 hours. This one took 36. I really liked this piece with this really craggy looking tomato. This took 104 hours to complete. So this one is so fascinating to me. Just seeing how other artists work, looking at the amount of detail, and oh wow. This one, 30 hours to complete. This one took 60. So just seeing the art, seeing the different techniques is inspiring to me. And I love how here's this rose hip on a black background. This is egg tempera. I've never worked with it, but how neat to see black background, see that in process. And then here is a craft paper background. This is gouache. And then this one is on illustration board. So the same subject, 3 ways. This one I think I may have to purchase for my own collection because it's really a fascinating book, an inspiring book, and so beautiful. So I hope that was inspiring to you to see these books that I checked out. I'd love to hear what books have been inspiring you and bringing you joy. You know how much I love books and of course flowers and art. Meanwhile in the studio, I've been working on a new painting and making some new prints and doing lots of behind the scene things, planning out a new class all about color that I'm excited to work on. I haven't quite got a handle on it yet, but it's coming along. It's always an interesting process. I'm so glad to have you here. I hope that you are enjoying your garden and your art and whatever you're working on. As for my garden, I will be continuing to share about it here on YouTube. From past years, I did do a few short garden tours if you want to take a look at that playlist and see what my garden was looking like in the past. And on my blog, I usually post about my garden once a month. If you go to my blog page, scroll down to where it says Explore Post by Topics, you can click on Garden and find all my garden related posts. And I guess that's it. I hope that you are finding many little joys to savor each day. I'll see you next time.